Welcome to this guide where I'm going to show you how to install Windows 11 from a USB flash drive. Before starting with the actual Windows 11 installation, there are a few things that we need to do first. The first one being you need to create a Windows 11 bootable USB flash drive, and I've made a separate guide on that which I'll link in the description of this video and in the cards now. The second one being you need to make sure that you're installing Windows on the correct drive if you have more than one drive. Now the easiest and most simplest way to ensure that you're installing Windows on the correct drive is by shutting down your computer and then physically unplugging any other drives that you have in your system and only leave the drive plugged in that you want to install Windows on. Now if you can't physically disconnect any other drives for whatever reason, I'm going to show you another method that you can use. And that only works if your computer is currently working. What you'll need to do is open up your File Explorer or this PC, and you should also see multiple drives like I have here. Now you need to identify the drive that you want to install Windows on. Let's say for instance, I wanted to install Windows on this drive. Then I can just select it, right click on it, and then click on Rename. And I'll rename this to Delete Me, and then press Enter. And if you do get any prompts, just click on Continue. And then that drive will be renamed to Delete Me. And that's how we'll be able to identify it when we're installing Windows. And you also need to make sure that you have backups of all the files that's saved on the drive where you're going to install Windows, as we're going to format it and all of the data will be destroyed. Now when you're done and you have a bootable USB flash drive with Windows on it, and you're sure that you'll be able to install it on the correct drive, it's time to boot from the USB flash drive. So you can shut down your computer if it isn't powered off already, and then plug in the USB flash drive, preferably to a port directly on the motherboard. You can start up your computer and then immediately start hitting the escape, delete, or F2 keys on your keyboard repeatedly. You can start by hitting the escape key, and if that doesn't take you to your BIOS, you can restart your computer and then hit the delete key. And if that doesn't take you to your BIOS, restart again and then hit the F2 key. If you're still not taken into your BIOS, I suggest that you do a Google search for how to enter the BIOS on your specific motherboard. Once you've successfully entered the BIOS on your computer, you should see a screen similar to this if you have a desktop computer. If you have a laptop computer, it might look different, but the same principles still apply. In the BIOS, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to navigate, or on newer computers, you'll also be able to use the mouse. Now once you're in the BIOS, you want to navigate to settings related to the boot order. So on this specific Gigabyte motherboard, the boot options can be found in the BIOS tab, and here I have a few different boot options to choose from. By default, this should be set to boot from your SSD or hard drive, but we need to change that to boot from the bootable USB flash drive we created. So on this screen, I can press Enter on the keyboard. And once I've done that, by using the arrow keys, I can change the boot option to the USB flash drive, which in this case is a 16 gig Transcend flash drive. Now you might also see two options, one being UEFI and the other just being the normal flash drive label. And this comes back to how you created the bootable USB flash drive in Rufus. If you chose the GPT partition scheme, you'll need to boot from the UEFI flash drive. And if you chose the MBR partition scheme, you'll need to boot from the normal flash drive label. But if you created an MBR bootable flash drive, you might not even see the UEFI option here. But in any case, if you have both of them available, just select the UEFI one first and then press Enter on your keyboard. And then on the boot screen, you can also look for settings related to CSM support or storage boot option control. And first, just leave them on the defaults that they currently are on your system. But if you're having any trouble booting from the USB flash drive, come and change these two settings to the other available options as well. So once you've selected the USB flash drive as the first boot option, then you can go ahead to the Save and Exit tab in your BIOS. And once in the Save and Exit screen, you want to make sure to choose the Save and Exit Setup option and then press Enter on your keyboard. You'll be prompted to save the changes, and you can just select Yes and then press Enter on the keyboard. Now just another quick example of the same BIOS, but this time in easy mode. You should also see a boot sequence screen, and if you click on that, it'll open the boot sequence and list all of the drives. What you can do here is use your mouse to click and drag the boot device, which in this case is the USB flash drive, and then drag it up as the first boot option. Once you've done that, you can just press Enter or Escape to go back to the previous screen. And you can confirm that the USB flash drive is now the first boot option. And then you should also see a Save and Exit tab on the screen. And if you click on that, you'll see a prompt saying, "Are you sure?" And you can just click on Yes. Then your computer will restart and boot from the bootable USB flash drive with Windows on it. And then you can start with the Windows installation. Once your computer has successfully booted from the Windows 11 bootable USB flash drive, you'll see the first Windows setup screen. And here you can select your language to install, the time and currency format, which is basically your language and the country that you live in. And then you can also choose your keyboard layout here. When you're all happy with that, go ahead and click on Next, and then click on Install Now. On the next screen, you'll be prompted to activate Windows. And if you do have a valid Windows 10 or Windows 11 product key, you can go ahead and enter it here. Or if you're reinstalling Windows, or installing Windows for the first time and you don't have a product key, go ahead and select this option that says I don't have a product key. And then you can choose between these Windows 11 versions. Now there are some very important notes that I need to mention here. The first one being, if you're reinstalling Windows 11 and you had an activated copy of Windows 11 on your computer, you need to reinstall the same version as the activated version that you had to make sure that it will activate again. So if you had Windows 11 Home, you need to install Windows 11 Home again. If you had Windows 11 Pro, you need to install Windows 11 Pro again. Another important thing to mention is, if you don't have a product key at all and you install the Windows 11 Home version, you can activate it with a Windows 11 Pro key later, and it will upgrade the Home version to the Pro version, but you can't do that in reverse. You can't install Windows 11 Pro here and then activate that with a Home key, as you can't downgrade the version from Pro to Home. You can only upgrade from Home to Pro. So make absolutely sure that you're choosing the correct version of Windows 11 here. I'm just going to go ahead and select the Windows 11 Pro version. And you always want to choose the version which doesn't have the N at the end. So once you've selected the version that you want to install, you can go ahead and click on Next. You'll see this screen where you'll need to accept the license terms. So just go ahead and click on this checkbox and then click on Next. Next, you'll see two options, Upgrade and Custom Install. Go ahead and select the Custom Install. Next, you'll need to select the drive where you want to install Windows on. If you only have one drive physically connected to your computer, you won't need to pay attention to this step. Now, earlier in the video, I showed you how you can rename the drive that you want to install Windows on to Delete Me. And what you need to take note of here is the drive number. So I have two drives here, drive 0 and drive 1, and I want to install Windows on the drive that's labeled Delete Me. So to do that, I'm going to delete all the partitions on drive 1, and to avoid any bugs, always start deleting the partitions from bottom to top. So I'm going to delete partition 2 on drive 1 by selecting it and then clicking on Delete. And remember, you need to make backups of all the files on that drive, as we're going to format this drive, and if we delete the partition, any data stored on it will be lost. So if you're sure that you can go ahead and click on OK, and then also delete any other partitions on the drive that's labeled Delete Me. So I'll select this partition and then click on Delete and click on OK. Now I only have one partition on drive 1, and the other drives that I have, I'm going to leave those alone. Now there might also be a slight chance that you don't see any drives listed here. And if that's the case, you'll need to load a driver for the Windows installation to detect your hard drive or SSD. And I've made a separate guide about that, which I'll link in the video's description and in the cards now. But once you've selected the drive where you want to install Windows, you can go ahead and click on Next. And then the Windows installation will start copying the files and getting the files ready to install on your SSD or hard drive. Now this process can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour or more, depending on if you have a solid state drive or hard drive in your computer. Once this part of the Windows 11 setup is finished, you'll get to this screen where it's going to restart your computer. And one important thing to take note of here is when it restarts your computer, you can disconnect the bootable USB flash drive to make sure that it boots to the Windows 11 installation that's on your SSD or hard drive. And after your computer restarts, you'll see this screen where it starts getting Windows 11 ready. Once Windows 11 is done with all of its initial setup stages, you'll see this screen. And if you're connected to the internet with a LAN cable, it'll automatically start downloading updates for Windows 11. If you're not connected and you have Wi-Fi, you'll be prompted to connect to a wireless network, and then it'll also start downloading the updates. And then on this first setup screen, you'll need to name your device. You can also skip this, but I'll just give this computer a name of Win11-PC and then click on Next. On this next screen, you'll need to choose if this is a personal or work computer. And if you choose the personal option, you'll need to sign in with a Microsoft account. If you want to use a local account instead, choose this option that says set up for work or school and then click on Next. And then here where it prompts you to sign in with a Microsoft account, click on this option that says sign in options and then choose the option that says domain join instead. And once you've done that, you can create a local account on this Windows 11 machine. I'm just going to create an account called memory and then click on Next. Here you can enter a password if you want to use a password. I'm just going to leave that blank and then click on Next. You might also see a screen prompting you for some privacy options. If you do, just turn off all of the sliders and then click on Next. After that, Windows 11 will finish with its initial setup stages and you'll be taken straight to your Windows 11 desktop. Now, if you've made it this far, congrats! You've successfully installed Windows 11 on your computer, and I do hope this guide helped you out. Please like the video and go ahead and watch any of my other helpful videos on this channel, some of which will help you install drivers on Windows 11 and optimize it and set it up for the first time, and overall just increase your experience in Windows 11. Please like the video. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next one.